Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Ronald W. Satz, founder and chair of the International Society of Unified Science, the only real scientific organization promoting the reciprocal system theory, and I'm also president of TransPower Corporation, a commercial and custom software manufacturing and certified systems engineering company. As usual, I will be discussing the reciprocal system today. We're going to cover two topics briefly. The first is, does quote, antimatter, quote, fall upward? Of course, in the reciprocal system, there's no such thing as antimatter. It's really inverse matter. You can find the link for the original discussion here. There's no need to go there right now. I'll explain everything. Christopher James Huff, otherwise known as C. James Huff online, doesn't understand the situation very well. He says, quote, related to this argument, the energy content of a system gives it positive gravity. Put 500 grams of matter and 500 grams of antimatter in an unobtainium box, and if the antimatter experiences anti-gravity, the weight of the two cancels out. Annihilate the two, and the box suddenly gains 1 kilogram of weight. Why such a bizarre asymmetry? Why would the energy behave differently only in the form of antimatter? Well, that's another conundrum of so-called modern physics, which is a bizarre mythology. So actually, in reality, there is no such thing as, quote, antimatter. It's really inverse matter. Inverse matter in our half of the universe still has mass. It's just each inverse atom has inverse to the mass of the corresponding atom in our sector. And so it doesn't, quote, fall upward. There is perfect symmetry in our physical universe. Our half, which we call the material sector, exists below the speed of light. The other half, the cosmic sector, exists above the speed of light. But the velocity equation flips. You know, the velocity equation is v equals s over t. Well, it flips, so it becomes t over s. So in that sector, there is motion in time rather than in space. Inverse matter here is, of course, radioactive, and it's not stable, so it decays in a very brief amount of time. Its mass here is inverse to the mass it has in its native sector. If an inverse proton combines with a material proton, the result is radiation. There's no mass here, just energy. And by the way, the annihilation is not necessarily as simple as it is in the electron-positron situation, which even that is not that simple. Other particles may be created which eventually convert to radiation. So also, Mr. Huff still doesn't understand what happens in the two-capacitor problem. He still thinks that, quote, charge conservation holds even if it violates the known law of energy conservation, which we strongly uphold in the reciprocal system. Like many slaves to conventional physics, he says that somehow, quote, the energy is radiated away, but no such energy has ever been observed or measured. The voltage of the second capacitor is higher than that predicted by conventional capacitor theory, which therefore disproves it. The electrons in an ordinary electrical circuit or circuits are massless and chargeless. They're not charged, they don't have mass, that's another kind of electron. Conventional theory does not tell us what an ordinary electron is. Yeah, it's unanalyzable according to conventional physics. It is just accepted as a given feature of nature. So, to conclude, the reciprocal system, as usual, is thousands of light years ahead of conventional theory. And, of course, you can find my paper on the two-capacitor problem in my work, Existence and Interactions, a computational treatise of the reciprocal system, the true theory of everything. Now, let's go on to the second topic of today. Is this an old or young galaxy? Let's take a quick look at this link, just to set the stage. Now, it says here, I'm quoting, this is from Science Daily, July 3rd, 2013. Quote, the early galaxies of the universe were very different from today's galaxies. Using new detailed studies carried out with the ESO Very Large Telescope and the Hubble Space Telescope, researchers have studied an early galaxy in unprecedented detail and determined a number of important properties, such as size, mass, content of elements, and have determined how quickly the galaxy forms new stars. Now, it says here in the caption, quasars are among the brightest objects in the universe and can be used as lighthouses to study the universe between the quasars and Earth. Here, researchers have discovered a galaxy that lies in front of a quasar, and by studying the absorption lines and the light from the quasar, they have measured the elemental composition of the galaxy in great detail, despite the fact that we were looking approximately 11 billion years back in time. So, there's apparently a quasar associated with this. And presumably it is near to the galaxy that's under consideration here. I'm going to go back to my response to this. So the conventional theory says that at these distances we must be dealing with a very young galaxy near the beginning of the alleged, quote, Big Bang. That's another bizarre mythology of modern physics. But the Big Bang and the alleged heat death, which will terminate the universe. But there is a quasar behind it. From the standpoint of the reciprocal system theory, this means that we're dealing with an old galaxy, not a young one. Quasars and radio galaxies result from the explosion of an old galaxy at the end of its life, when its matter reaches the upper age limit. The exploding galaxy loses mass, of course, each time it explodes. So, in other words, these very large, giant galaxies are normally spheroidal galaxies, much larger than our own Milky Way. They discombobulate, essentially, and they do this by ejecting quasars. These quasars eventually leave our material sector and move to the cosmic or inverse sector. The final result looks like a very small young galaxy, which will eventually combine with others. It's just residual matter left over from all the explosions. And that matter will be absorbed into the surrounding galaxies, or globular clusters. So, all this continues on. The universe is cyclical. It's not like a Big Bang, which will end in a heat death. The universe is cyclical. So what happens is the globular clusters combine to form small galaxies. The small galaxies combine to form large galaxies. The large galaxies eventually explode, discombobulating themselves. The matter goes through their sector, becoming cosmic matter. Similarly, eventually the large cosmic galaxies explode, and that matter comes back into our sector in the form of cosmic rays. So, that's the reciprocal system. Study it, prove it for yourself. The simplest treatment is my work, The Unmysterious Universe. The most complex, advanced work is my work, Existence and Interactions, a computational treatise of the reciprocal system, the true theory of everything, and the reciprocal system, Microcosmos Database, and the reciprocal system, Macrocosmos Database. For those of you who are brave enough to use the reciprocal system in your scientific and engineering work. And I have to point out, there's no such database in conventional theory corresponding to what we've done with the reciprocal system. So again, study the reciprocal system and prove it for yourself. Thanks for your attention.